the Formula 1 season is only a matter of days away, and we cannot wait for the racing to get back. Obviously, we had tested last week. I mean, it was all right to say the least. Obviously, the cars were back on the tracks, and seeing the full cars in the full livery, in the full element. It was really, really nice to see. However, we are fully focused on the Australian Grand Prix. I cannot wait. Now, as you probably noticed, Lyle isn't here with us today, unfortunately, but we do have a very special guest with us today. Our second guest of the year. His name is Chazzahd HD. Very, very good channel. If you haven't checked him out already, go and check him out. Links will be in the description and everything. Chazzahd, welcome to the F1 Debate Show. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good, and thank you as well for bringing me on. As you said, only days away from the first race, and I just cannot wait for that first race.
No, I'm very, very excited as well. It's always a very special time of year. For me, it's like Christmas, almost. In fact, it's even better than Christmas. It's like, it's only days away now before he arrives, before the F1 Santa arrives, if you want to call it that. So, obviously, as I mentioned before at the start, F1 testing, obviously, it just came and gone. I don't really want to go too much on testing yet. However, the last thing I want to mention is our guest Chazzahd went one better than any of us probably ever did, and he was actually at the second test, which I thought that was a brilliant experience for him. And obviously I just wanted to quickly talk to you about that, Chazzahd. How was that like, being at the test, seeing the full cars, seeing the cars for real in testing mode, and was this your first time at a proper test?
At testing, yes, it was. I did go to the Spanish Grand Prix in 2014 at the same track, so I knew the track relatively well, the surrounding area, but yeah, it was the first time I've ever been to testing. It was very good, very relaxed atmosphere as well, especially around the main entrance, and the fans were very relaxed, and everyone was having a good time, and basically just went all around the track, looked at some corners where you can really tell who has a good car and who doesn't. And yeah, I got plenty of pictures and some video clips from testing as well. But yeah, I had plenty of fun at the track, seeing the cars for just such a long time compared to, say, a race weekend.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because obviously they were like from what? Was it 8-9 o'clock till 5 o'clock local time? So obviously it was obviously with an hour's break. So I'd imagine that you obviously just hours and hours and hours of unlimited Formula 1 cars. None of this GP, Formula 2, Formula 3 interrupting Porsche supercars or whatever the hell that is. Just pure Formula 1. So just quickly, out of the cars you've seen, who do you think is looking good at the moment? And who would you say that a team, don't discount this team yet? Who would you say is an underdog of a team?
Looking good is definitely Ferrari. I think Red Bull are looking good. They just haven't shown it yet. I think once we get to the first 3 or 4 races, you'll really start to see Red Bull and Honda doing well. Alfa Romeo, Haas a bit. But when it comes to, say, teams that are not looking good, I wouldn't necessarily say Mercedes, because even though they're not as fast as Ferrari right now, their car still looked very good. But one team for sure is Williams. I said this. I said this in a live stream that I did. I think it was earlier this week. That it looked like they were towing a caravan around the track compared to other teams. The rear end of the car was all over the place. It looked such a heavy car compared to the other cars, even when they were pushing on a qualifying lap. But yeah, their car just looked horrible compared to the others. There's not really a team that's really looking bad except for Williams. They all kind of look competitive, but maybe teams like Mercedes or even Renault aren't as maybe competitive as they want to be. But yeah, that's for me the best and worst teams that I saw.
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. I mean, obviously, Williams just had a horrible start to testing, and then, I agree there in what you're saying there, Chaz, because obviously, I think I said in our last episode about testing, when we were talking about, obviously, the testing as a whole, that no one has really had, about Williams, no one's had a really major hiccups. Everyone's had some sort of problem, whether that's a crash or, a technical problem. Like, obviously, I remember McLaren had multiple, obviously, problems in 2015, 2016, obviously 2017. So it was good to see them like not having as much reliability problems. And then obviously Honda on the same note in 2018 when everyone was looking at them thinking, oh god, it's going to be another Honda laughing stock of a show. Then they kind of said, no, like we actually are reliable, we are competitive. It was McLaren's problem, if you could say, when Toro Rosso was banging out the laps last year. Obviously, I mean, Red Bull for me is just, I don't have a clue. I really, really don't know. I'm just like, they're either going to be in the top three or they're going to be leading the midfield. I really don't know about that. But obviously, we'll find out when we get to Australia in a few days' time. Obviously, I think about this time next week, I think it'll be like the event. I think the gates will be open and everything. I think it's like a 4-day event that they have in Australia. So obviously getting all the fans in as well, obviously drivers as well. The drivers are actually on their way now. It's just so exciting. I need to be quiet about it. I'm just so excited about it as well. Obviously the Chazzahd did mention about all the pictures and videos and everything. If you do want to go and see them, obviously follow his Twitter, his YouTube as well. Obviously all them pictures and videos will be added on his social media. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this episode. Now obviously we have been talking about testing, as I said before, and we haven't really been about debating about certain topics, because we like to just pick up a random topic, maybe one that people are talking about and one that not so much people are talking about. Now this one isn't a topic that nobody's really talking about, but I did see it and it did get me thinking. Now it's about Lewis Hamilton. Now for me, Lewis Hamilton is arguably one of the best Formula 1 drivers of the modern generation. You could say of all time, it's stat-wise, but then you're going to go and develop, you're going to go down that road of, okay, would it be like driving James Clark's car, Fangio's car, Schumacher's car, and all that malarkey. So, it is hard to say whether he's best of all time in terms of, raw driving, but in terms of stats, he definitely is. Now, he posted on his social media, on his Instagram to be more specific, and basically saying that he was at an event with loads of other celebrities and stuff. His family and friends were there, and apparently he was pictured being in a car, leaving with 4 or 5 women, and obviously the press seen it, took a photo of it, shared it on their magazines, newspapers, websites or whatever, and pretty much said, okay, Hamilton's leaving a bar club with 5 girls, and then all this jibber jabber just rolled off the tongue, really, if you like. So, and then Hamilton pretty much said, look, I do work with women, and pretty much he just defended himself in the sense of, I can work with women, women can be friends and stuff. This is wrong how, the media try to, disrespect my name, my family and stuff, but I will forever keep thriving. And I'm looking at that going, like, do you know what, I actually generally, I have sympathy for Lewis Hamilton, because as I have said before, he's not your typical or your average Formula 1 driver. He's more of a worldwide celebrity, like the Beckhams, in the same sense of sport. Like Beckham was more than a footballer, he was a celebrity, he was a fashion icon, he was this, he was that. Hamilton is probably the exact same as that, and he does get a lot of stick with the media, and obviously now I know why the media do get on his back, because it's a better story, they get more money for it and everything, and they're not really bothered whether like Lewis Hamilton or not. One of the things that did get me thinking, now it got me thinking about other people that gave their opinions on Lewis Hamilton, people that I know, and I've just seen that on social media, where they just disrespect him just for the sake of it, because he's winning. It takes me back to the days of Sebastian Vettel, when I was only a relatively new Formula 1 fan, and obviously I didn't live through the days of Schumacher, I lived through the days of Sebastian Vettel, and just seeing him winning all the time, I hated him. I couldn't stand the man, and when I was seeing him, I just want to punch you so much. And I think I posted a status out saying, can someone quickly run to Japan and shoot Sebastian Vettel? Which I wasn't violent, to be honest. I'll say that I wasn't violent as a kid. I was calm. So obviously I just wasn't a fan of Vettel whatsoever. And I think a lot of fans are like that towards Lewis Hamilton because he's winning. And I generally do disagree with the way that people think and the main attitude towards Lewis Hamilton, because he's one of the he's at the top of his game right now. He's one of the best Formula 1 drivers of the modern era. Like I've already said, we should be thankful. We should be living in the moment that what we have here is something absolutely amazing. We witness history. Obviously broke Michael Schumacher's pole position record. Absolutely brilliant. I was even there to see it live, and that for me was a turning point in Lewis Hamilton's opinion. I was a bit Hamilton. I'm not too fussed about him, but then since then I'm going, you know what? He's actually a really good driver, and I do really like him a lot more than what I did. So Chazzahd, obviously, I was rambling on there just a tad. So before I get into other people's opinions about him, what's your verdict on Lewis Hamilton as a whole?
With Lewis Hamilton, I've always I've always thought he was, when I first got into F1 which was about start of 2012 was when I really got into F1. End of 2011 I watched a couple races, but 2012 was when I really started. But yeah, I thought, say 2012, 2013, he was a very good driver, but I didn't know how good of a driver he could be until, say, the last couple seasons. I knew he was a very good driver, but I didn't think he was ever going to be a Senna or Schumacher type driver, because I never thought we would have a situation where he would go up directly against Sebastian Vettel, who was an equal, in an equal enough car, and prove himself. And he did. Not only did he prove himself, but in 2018, at some races where his car was not as good, clearly, he not only beat Vettel at times like Singapore, he absolutely destroyed him. And that's really what changed my mind on Hamilton, from being a very good driver to, you know what, he's probably one of the greatest drivers of all time. In my opinion, he is in the top 5 behind Fangio, Schumacher and Senna right now. If he wins, say, this year, I'd probably put him in the top 3. But yeah, the last couple of years for me, for Hamilton's really, in terms of his reputation, it's proved a lot to certain people, because now you can't really use that best car excuse with him anymore, because in 2017, yeah, he probably did have the better car, but it was only by probably a tenth or 2/10 at most. And then in 2018, he didn't have the best car over 2018. So I think as a driver, one of the greatest. But I will say, with this latest controversy, I don't understand why anyone, and I don't know what you think, but I don't get why anyone cares about this. Because what he gets up to in his personal time, like me and like you, shouldn't matter to the outside world. It's our personal time. Who cares if he's in a car full of 100 girls, never mind 10? Who cares? Who cares? I don't understand why people care. It's like people are sat there waiting for him to trip up so they can just slaughter him for anything. Like, for example, that thing with his niece, I think, was it a couple years ago? Another thing, it's like, who cares? It's such a minuscule thing in the wide world. I don't understand why people actually care about something that doesn't matter, and to be honest, is a boring topic anyway. But I've noticed this with Hamilton is, like the BBC Sports personality thing in December with the whole slums comment. Like, why do people really care? Like, he could have used a better word, but compared to where he's living right now, Stevenage isn't that great of a place. It's not a slum, definitely not a slum, but it's not comparable to Monte Carlo, is it? So I don't understand why people criticise him as much as they do, because most of the stuff he does doesn't really deserve that much criticism. He has done some ridiculous things, like that whole, I think, was it Monaco in 2011, that Ali G thing. I can't remember what the exact quote was, where he said, I think someone asked him, why did they give you a penalty? And then he said, it's because I'm black. And then it was supposed to be a comedy bit. Stuff like that is stupid and deserves criticism, because there's no point in doing that. It's not going to help the situation. But things like this, it's like, why do people care? I don't care. The only thing I care about with any of the drivers is what they do in Formula One, not what they do in December and January when they're off at fashion shows or whatever. I don't care.
Well, I think, obviously, as I said before, with the whole this like media thing just getting on Hamilton's case, obviously, for them it gets like the story, and gets them the money essentially, because it's like, obviously, like Hamilton, you could say, is a very easy target. And I think, like, just what you're saying there about him going up on the sports personality and saying Stevenage, as slums. Now, that for me was just something really, really minor compared to like when Kimi Räikkönen turned up to, let's say, was it the FIA gala, absolutely mortal drunk. Nobody batted an eyelid. Everyone was like, "Oh, look at Kimi." Can you imagine if Hamilton did that? My word, social media would just blow up. it would have went out of the water. It would have total control. Rip up his contract. Get him sacked. He should be in Formula One. Kim Wrighton does it. Just keep him in Formula One for another couple of years. What? Are you kidding us? But yes, I do agree in the sense of like, yes, obviously, why should we care about what people think about Lewis Hamilton on the outside and stuff? But for me, it's just like it is like annoying that I want to know why people are like this against him. Not so much the media, just fans themselves. I'm thinking like, why are you just going to be constantly sticking at Hamilton? Because, you know, as I said, for media-wise, you know, it's for money and branding and all that rubbish. But for fans like me, you, and obviously people watching, it's just I'm just going to quickly pull on something about Lewis Hamilton and just Hamilton. Why not Vettel? Why not Bottas? Why not Ricciardo? Just Hamilton. You know, I'd imagine that other drivers have done things wrong. Other drivers can go to clubs and parties and stuff. I don't know what's like in other countries, but like over here, it's just I can't remember the last good thing I've seen, you know, said about Lewis Hamilton, and I can't think of anything that he's generally done wrong in Formula One itself, because people have slated him being a cheat, being this, being that, and I'm thinking to myself like, what has he done to be branded as that? Like what? Why do people? I just don't get why people hate him so much. It's really like, yeah, like that's the plan. That's a plot I'm trying to get at. Is like, why do people dislike him so much when he's done nothing wrong, or a couple of things wrong? But you are going to make mistakes, whether you're a celebrity or not. You're going to say the wrong things. Like we've said the wrong things on here a couple of times, but and you know that's a done and dusted. I'm sure you've said a couple of wrong things as well, but people are like, I don't necessarily agree with that. But it's just constant. Like there's a guy, I won't say names, but there's a guy I have on my Facebook. He runs a Formula One page. Again, I won't say any names or anything. He just slates Hamilton for absolutely nothing. Like the incident in Italy. Oh, Hamilton's fault. Trying to think of a couple of other things. I'm sure. I think it was when obviously not with Hamilton, but when Vettel hit in the Bottas. Again, he just it was just like a total slate against Mercedes, and it obviously going towards Bottas, pretty much being in support of Sebastian Vettel, in the sense of I'm not going to support Lewis Hamilton, and this guy's British, and that's what got me thinking like, why are you being like this? Are you just doing it for attention? Are you just doing it for like, I want to be awkward? Because I'll imagine when Hamilton retires, everyone will say what a great driver he was. Everyone will say, oh, he was this, he was that, he was a nice guy, nice chap. And all these people, you know, just saying, oh, these horrible things about him, and just going, obviously, just turning against what they said. And I can see that happening, because I imagine a lot of people who lived through the Schumacher era will be the exact same. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think the thing with Hamilton, you have to really look at his career and what has driven this dislike. So when he came into F1, the reason he got so much hate, especially from Alonso fans and really any fan, is because it was more so jealousy that he got straight into a McLaren in 2007 instead of, I don't know, the normal way probably would have been to go to, I don't know, Spiker or some midfield team that couldn't really get a consistent points finish tally going at the time. He jumped straight into a race-winning car, championship-winning car. And then you have, the whole battle with Alonso, and then people doing what they did, which was so dumb because it wasn't his fault at all, really. It was more the team and Fernando that were having the issues. It was nothing really to do with Lewis Hamilton. You do have stuff like Liegate, where he lied to the stewards in 2009 in Australia, but even though he was wrong for that, he also did have bad advice from the team.
I was going to say he said. I remember in that interview that he did. I think it was in the following race in Malaysia. I think it was. He said that he was misled by. I can't remember his name. Was it called Bob Ryan or something like that? Dave Ryan. That's right. I knew it was Ryan. So I remember that, and again he was misled. But I can't imagine purely Hamilton being slated for that, because again he was brand new in Formula One, and obviously I vaguely remember Hamilton first coming into the sport when I used to just watch it. I didn't necessarily take any interest, but I remember Schumacher leaving, Hamilton coming in, and that's how Hamilton kind of guided me into Formula One, because I followed Hamilton a lot because he was always on the TV with him being British, and so obviously I can't imagine fans being hated towards him. It's just, I would probably say since his Mercedes days that he's just really got some stick. Because when Vettel was winning, everyone was having stick at Vettel, or Hamilton should be winning. When Hamilton started winning, it's just turned, and that's what's really annoying us, because we're just hating Hamilton because he's winning all the time. That's not fair.
Yeah, it's with that whole dominant car thing. I understand why people do that, because you almost feel like it's not a real. Some victories are not real because of just how good the car is, and it's not fair competition. I understand why people think that, but that's not the driver's fault. They just have to get the best out of the car that they can. It's the same with Sebastian Vettel and Michael Schumacher and then Mansell when he was driving the Williams in '92 and so on and so forth. I don't also get that whole best car hatred. I did also, when I came into F1, I will admit, I did have a bit of a dislike for the repeated Sebastian Vettel wins at the end of 2013. But that wasn't a dislike of the person, it was a dislike of the repetitiveness of the victor. It wasn't, I hate Sebastian Vettel because he is who he is. It was, I really wish someone else other than Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel would win a race, because this is becoming a bit boring, I think it's safe to say. But but it's with, again, the best car thing, he has to do what he has to do. There's nothing, he can do about it. It's his team that's built the best car. So there you go.
So now we've had our say. I want you guys to give us your say. Now, you have been sending your tweets in at F1_day16. Obviously, our social medias and everything will be underneath us as we speak. And obviously, a lot of people have actually been tweeting us, which I'm quite surprised at, to be honest. Obviously, Chaz has had his view. I've had my view. Let's see what you guys think. So, Kobaru Ali, again, by the way, if I do pronounce these names wrong, then forgive me. But he says his tax status makes it hard for a lot of us to warm to him. Nice way to kick things off, to be honest. Yes, I am aware that he is in that tax kind of threshold, if you like, of where he doesn't pay his taxes, where he's got offshore accounts and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go too much into that because I don't know too much about that. But yes, that can be quite a controversial topic, to say the least. He should pay his taxes, but there you go. At King Aki, I think that's it. It says his personality changed from his being down to earth and true to himself, then becoming the media robot. Everything that comes out of his mouth for the past 9 years, it's unbelievable. First 3 years, he was real, true to himself. Would you agree? Would you agree with that? That he's a so-called media robot, Chaz?
I think he did have a part of his career, I think between, say, 2000 and, 10, 11, where I think he became a bit of a media robot. But right now, for example, no, I don't think he is. Because if you look at him at press conferences, most of the time he's not interested. And I will say I don't like... there are a couple of things of Hamilton I don't like. One is, for example, at press conferences, he doesn't really seem to be interested. I will defend him slightly on that because I think sometimes the questions he gets are a bit too repetitive. Like, for example, say last year at Monaco in 2018, I don't think this was asked. I didn't actually see the press conference, but say if someone asked at a press conference at Monaco going into the weekend, Lewis Hamilton, what are your thoughts about driving around Monte Carlo, even though he answered that back in 2007?
Yeah, he's driven it every single year, yeah.
Yeah, it's repetitive. I don't understand why they keep asking, the same questions. It's like they don't really have anything to ask. And I think that's why sometimes he gets a bit bored, and I do understand that. But also, when he clearly visibly shows, if he's playing on his phone or whatever, that he is not interested and he's only there basically to just, not get in trouble.
Yeah.
It does make the press's job hard because you kind of then don't want to ask the person, Lewis Hamilton, the question if he looks like he's not even interested in what you have to say when all the other drivers look like they're a bit more interested. So I don't quite like that in him. And I think sometimes he can be a bit, at a race weekend when the car isn't quite good, disinterested. He has those weekends where he doesn't look like he really cares, like Shanghai last year. Like he didn't look like he was really bothered. Those are the couple things I don't really like about his, say, personality. Is sometimes he can be a bit disinterested and it can be a bit annoying when he's like that. But his personality, for me, mostly at least, is completely fine. I don't understand why people have a big problem with it. I know people say, "Oh, he's cocky," and stuff like that. For me, that's not cockiness, that's confidence. That's what confidence looks like to people who aren't confident. It looks like cockiness. So, I don't really have a massive problem with his personality. Only, sometimes he can look a bit disinterested and massively bored when he could be maybe a bit more interested.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if the media are there, obviously they've got a job to do at the same time. They want to get the best stories out, and if Hamilton's not willing to answer that, but if the question is repetitive, then yes, be like really again. But obviously they should be thinking of better things to ask him, rather than just ask him, oh, what's it like to drive here? What's it like? How's the car doing? Or what's the situation like with Bottas? It's like just the same situation, same questions over and over again. But when it's a genuine, proper question, and he goes, well, it's this, and he just tend to avoid it in a bit, and it's like, well, you're not giving the guy a chance. He's there to do a job, a bit like you. At least give him a bit of a headline, if you like, just not like a major headline, but just give him something to take back with him, I suppose. And obviously not him, but the other journalists as well. Maybe some sort of entertainment for the fans as well. At L Raptos, or Lotus Raptos, has got a very interesting tweet, a very long tweet, to say the least, a couple of them. He says, Hamilton was always hated by someone, though. He says, when he debuted, people didn't like him because A, he was black, although that in brackets, although that was probably down to the Sun and Daily Mail's influence. Could agree. B, he ended straight up in a McLaren seat on his debut, unlike other champions before him. Then he goes on to say, then it sort of died down when he established himself as a solid driver. Then he switched from McLaren to Mercedes. Then people questioned him, thought he was doing it for the money, as Kimi did. Then 2014 rolled around, and the convo he had with Ross Brawn all made sense. He then goes on to say, Hamilton had looked into his seat, claimed his critics, and only won because of the best car. Now, you did say something like that before, Chaz, didn't you? About how, I'm sick of people saying he won because of the best car. That's what he's saying there. He's almost backing you up essentially by saying I don't want people to say that anymore. He is a generally good driver. Obviously only one in the best car. And if Damon Hill or Vettel or Schumacher didn't, and he says, then I think people respected him after 2017, 2018, and showing everyone he's a fantastic driver and one of the greats of the sport. Sure, he may not have rebuilt Ferrari as Schumacher did, or managed to win a race stuck in sixth gear like Senna did, or win the 6 different teams as Fangio did, or do what Clark could do, but he's still probably one of the greatest of all time. I'll probably say yes. Obviously, there are different times when Schumacher was around, when Clark was around, when Fangio was around. So you could compare. You can't really compare them in the sense of that, because could Fangio win in Hamilton's car? Could Hamilton win in Fangio's car? That type of thing. But obviously, when you're given this kind of package, if you like, pretty much what Chaz was saying before about when Hamilton didn't have necessarily the best car in 2018, and. Obviously, then he went up beating the Ferraris fair and square, because I did say before that again that Ferrari did have the best car in 2018, definitely the fastest without a shadow of a doubt. I said that in 2017 I thought Ferrari threw the title away for Seb, but in 2018 Seb threw it away from himself. Just too many mistakes. And then again it got me thinking as well about how, okay, Seb's doing all these mistakes. When is Hamilton making these mistakes? He's not. Like some of the greats didn't make these major mistakes. They might have did a cheeky thing here and there, but obviously Hamilton hasn't really done anything major, if you like. At Kid Loves F1 said, I am a Vettel fan, but I respect Hamilton and what he has been able to accomplish. I will put him third of all time after Senna and Schumacher. if he gets to 7 World Drivers' Championships, I think he has to be in the conversation of being the GOAT, the greatest of all time. How do you guys? He says, how do you guys rate Vettel of all time? I would put him in top 25. Top 25. I'll probably put him in top 10. So how would, obviously off the subject of Hamilton, how would you rate Vettel, Chaz? On Kid Loves F1's question.
All time.
All time, yeah. Where would you put him?
Say, yeah, about 10th in the top 10. But I will say, for me, his reputation and his ranking is at risk for me of dropping in my personal all-time list. I don't think, though, like I say all-time great, it really is more like the greatest drivers, in a list. In terms of the all-time greats, I personally don't think Sebastian Vettel is one of the all-time greats. I don't think there's many all-time greats out there. I think there's only maybe 5 at most, maybe 6, but I don't think Sebastian Vettel is a true all-time great because of the amount of mistakes he's made. He's made way too many mistakes. I know, Senna made mistakes like Monaco in '88 where he crashed, had a 45-second lead or something like that. Hamilton made plenty in 2011. Schumacher made plenty. But it's the way Vettel made mistakes in a championship situation. I can't imagine Michael Schumacher in a better car making those types of mistakes, for example, at a crucial part of the season.
Exactly.
Same goes for Senna. And look at Hamilton. Hamilton was in a worse car. I would say had maybe not more pressure on him, but he had to do a lot more with what he had at certain races because, for example, like Monza, Ferrari in qualifying had a quarter of a second advantage over Mercedes, and if they maintained a 1-2 at the end of the first lap, Ferrari, I think they would have won that Grand Prix quite comfortably. But yeah, with Vettel, the reason I don't rank him as an all-time great is because there's too many things that go against him in terms of certain circumstances, the amount of mistakes he's made, the types of mistakes he's made, like for example Canada in 2011. If Senna had done that, I don't think we would have ever seen Ayrton Senna ever leave a hotel room again. If he had bottled a race lead like Vettel did in Canada, I don't think Ayrton would have come back very quickly from that. Same with Michael Schumacher, but Vettel, with the mistakes he makes, I can't rank him as an all-time great like Senna, Schumacher, even Hamilton. I can't rank him that highly. But hopefully, 2019, with a properly, consistently good Ferrari car over 2019, hopefully, he can change my mind on that. But right now, if he has another season where he bottles the title in a car that is equal or better, he's probably going to drop outside my top 10 because great drivers don't make that many mistakes or throw away so many good chances.
Yeah, I think, obviously, even in Vettel's dominant era, he still made some really silly mistakes. Obviously, probably one of the most famous ones is that crash in Turkey 2010. Obviously, you don't really know who's to blame for that, but obviously it did cost Sebastian Vettel, obviously, pointer and potentially a race win, obviously, and Red Bull had 1-2 at the time. Then you look at the situation with Multi 21. Now, obviously Hamilton was just, I think it was into his second race with Mercedes at the time, and obviously Red Bull had been ordered, okay, stay in position, and obviously Vettel ignored that. And then I think it was on the flip side as well, Mercedes were going through the similar situation, and they stuck to their guns and stuck with the positions that the certain cars were, even though Hamilton was ahead of Rosberg, and I imagine Rosberg wasn't too happy about that. But and there are, as like you said before, there are other things as well that that Vettel has. You generally do have to question, his general ability, and a lot of those things, especially more so in 2018 as well, more than 2017, because I think for 2017 I thought Vettel did okay, apart from Baku when he ran into Hamilton. That was a bit insane, to say the least. I've never seen anything like that before in Formula 1 since I've been watching it. I can't imagine Hamilton doing that kind of thing. But I thought to be fair, I thought Vettel did have an alright 2017. It could have been much better. I thought the team did screw him over a little bit. However, in 2018, I thought it was just playing on Vettel. It's his own damn fault. But I do want to see a genuine fight between these two drivers, because this is something that we've been looking forward to for a long, long time, when they were both coming into Formula 1. I think when Vettel was at Toro Rosso, when he won in Italy, then obviously Hamilton won the championship the same year, it was going, right, these two are going to be hopefully being at the pinnacle of Formula 1, battling for that world championship eventually. And we've never had that. We had a couple of snippets in 2010, you could say, but there was more than, there was other drivers as well in the mix for that championship as well. Same in 2012, I thought Hamilton was doing okay in 2012. I thought McLaren had the quickest car, and then reliability kind of cost them. And Red Bull, obviously improved. And obviously as time went on, when the V6s came in, literally those roles swapped. Vettel became, I'm now at the back and then Hamilton's ahead, and it's like, we can't have this happy medium. We just want to see these two really good drivers, battling at the front, because Vettel is a good driver, but as Chaz did say, he probably isn't one of the great of all time, if you like, at present, because of the amount of mistakes he has made. But I do genuinely want to see a proper title fight between these two. I'm sure Chaz does as well. I'm sure you guys do as well. So let's hope we can get that in 2019. And the final comment comes from James Irving. He says, "Nope, I don't like him, as in my opinion he took Masters title in 2008. Okay, right, that's the end of that one. So obviously, I briefly remember watching that race as well. I'm sure that was probably the first race I watched from start to finish. I remember sitting in the house watching it briefly, and Hamilton win the championship, being like, "Oh God, that's really, really good." But I didn't know who was who. I think I knew Alonso and Hamilton at the time. So I generally do wish I lived through them days of Formula 1, because since then I've just been living through the dominance of Vettel, now the dominance of Hamilton. So I just want to see a nice, proper, genuine title fight. I'm sure you do as well. But obviously, overall verdict on Hamilton as well. I think people should just calm down on the situation. Just take in what we have here, that we do have a really, really good driver. Don't be as harsh on him in 2019. Don't put all the attention on him generally. Just focus on other drivers as well, because they've got all these rookies coming through the ranks as well. Loads of British talent. Russell, Norris as well. Very exciting for them. Obviously, big futures ahead of them. Charles Leclerc, obviously, I know he's not British, but obviously he's potential world champion as well. And obviously the other drivers as well. So obviously Ricciardo at Renault. Can't wait for that. So obviously, Chaz, before we finish, let's just briefly talk about the Australian Grand Prix, because it is, as I said, it's only a week away. Very, very exciting as well. So, out of the top three, well, particularly top three on the podium, who do you think will be? Who do you think will finish on the podium?
To be honest, I haven't really, with the podium, I haven't really given it much thought. I've been thinking more about qualifying, to be honest, because I think Mercedes are going to be a lot closer in qualifying than people think, because that track, from what I saw at testing, that track should suit their car better than Spain or the next track after Australia, which is Bahrain. But on the podium, I think we'll definitely see a Ferrari driver in one of the first two positions. I think we'll probably have, say, Vettel. I'm not going to say who is going to be in what position, because honestly, I don't know. It's that close for me. Because I also think Red Bull could really surprise and be on the podium as well. I think there'll be two. I think it'll be the two Ferrari drivers on the podium and Hamilton. But honestly, I have no idea in what position it's going to be, because if Lewis Hamilton does what he did last year in qualifying and really the whole race weekend, and pulls out a great lap in qualifying and puts in a great race performance but doesn't get hampered by bad luck, then I think he could honestly win that Grand Prix, even if the car isn't good enough to do that. But I think definitely Ferrari should, in qualifying and the race, should be occupying the top three positions with both of their cars. But yeah, I think Hamilton is definitely going to surprise us in Melbourne because of how good he is at that track. And Melbourne does tend to be one of Mercedes' best tracks on the calendar.
I think, obviously, Hamilton hasn't won at that track since 2015. So it's almost become a little bit of a bogey track, if you could say. Obviously, 2016 Rosberg won, and both times it's been screwed over, which obviously 2017 was like, all right, fair enough, obviously they'll learn from their mistakes. But then it happened again in 2018, and at the time, I think you could say obviously Vettel was like the car isn't as good as what at this stage was what it was last year, and we've still managed to win the race. And then obviously as time went on, obviously that car just got better and better. So obviously Hamilton will want to put those demons aside. I think he's only won there twice. I think it is. I think he's only won there twice. I think 2008 and 2015 he's won there. So not a good record, but obviously like I said, yes, Mercedes have won races there as well. Rosberg won in 2014. He won there in 2016. Obviously 3 years in the hybrid era, and then obviously Ferrari took over the past 2 years. But for me, yes, I'm like you, Chaz. I really don't know. It could be anybody's guess out of the top six, sorry, if you like. Definitely, I want to see someone different on the podium. I don't want to see. We are going to see either a Mercedes, Red Bull, or Ferrari, but I want to see a Renault. I want to see a Haas driver, because since the hybrid era, the big three teams, as like Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari, have just been dominating the podium. And I think there's only been 2 times. I think Lance Stroll in Baku and Sergio Perez in Baku. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they're the only 2 times where the top 3 haven't covered the entire of the podium, and other teams have been on the podium, as far as I'm aware. And I do want to see more mixture, not only in Australia, but throughout the course of the season. Just like I want to see Hulkenberg on the podium, because he's never been on the podium, which is sad to see. Ricciardo, I want to see him on the podium as well, even though you could say it's like, oh, it's just like seeing him in Red Bull, but it's just been nice to see him smiling again on the podium for Renault. McLaren, I want to see them on the podium, my team, McLaren, Norris, Sainz, anybody on that podium in Australia would be very, very good. But if there's any place that likely to happen, it would be Australia, because the cars are still fresh, the teams are still learning everything about those cars. And obviously there's every single chance of a massive shunt in turn 1, which I'm predicting I'm predicting a crash into turn 1. So I'm hoping that is the case. I hope we do get a very thrilling race indeed. Obviously, guys, let us know your opinions in the comment section below about Lewis Hamilton. What you think of him, whether you like him or not. Everything that we've said, let us know your opinions in the comment section below. And obviously Australian Grand Prix, not that too far away. Let us know your top 3 in the description below as well. But obviously, guys, this is where we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you very much for watching as well. A bit of a nice episode to say the least. Obviously, thank you for Chazzahd HD coming on for this episode. Obviously, taking his time out of his busy schedule as well. But as I said at the start of the episode, if you want to go and check his channel out, all the links will be in the description below. Definitely go and check him out. Good live streams as well. Just quickly, Chaz, what have you got coming up on your channel heading into Melbourne?
So we've got season previews. And then once we get to Australia, there's going to be plenty of content, and not only during the weekend, but we're talking from practice 2 until Monday night when we complete the race review. So, for example, I'm going to be doing a practice 2 watch along. One reason is because it's the first free practice of the season, and it's so exciting. And also, I'm going to do it as kind of a test stream for later in the weekend. Yeah. Then you'll have the Australian Grand Prix preview from me on the Friday at 4 PM. Then, on Saturday, I will be uploading or doing 2 live streams on the Saturday, on Saturday the 16th of March. So, a qualifying watch-along, then a qualifying review. The qualifying review will be about 3 hours after the end of qualifying in Australia. So, say 10 AM British time, and then the qualifying watch-along will start, 5:30 in the morning here in the UK. And then, of course, race watch-along. And also, don't forget that when you tune in, what we do, and we made a slight change to the way we do the watch-alongs last year. So what we're going to do consistently for this year is the watch-alongs start for the Sunday. The race watch-alongs start 1 hour before the race starts, and then they will finish about an hour after the race ends. So basically, we're going to be live for 4 straight hours from about 5 AM UK time until, say, 9 AM UK time, or maybe 8:45 UK time. And then Monday, the 18th, I will be doing a 1.5 to 2 hour race review, going through everything that happened, all the incidents, absolutely everything. And there you go. But I also want to say 2 things. 1, thank you for having me on. And 2, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because I believe you're very, very close to 500 subs. So please subscribe to this channel and get this channel over the line. when it comes to 500 subs. So yeah, make sure you do that before you click away from this video.
Yep, thank you very much. Yes, well, obviously we're very, very close to 500 as well. So if we get over that line before Australia as well, and obviously then we'll be able to set our target. Well, our next target as well. So obviously don't let Chaz waste his time of getting up very early doors, because I'll definitely be doing the watching the race alongs with him, if you know what I mean. So I'll be watching the race, watching his watch alongs. So obviously go and check them out. When the race is. Like, if you are getting up at the crack of dawn for the Australian Grand Prix. But obviously, if you have liked what you've seen here, please like and subscribe as well. As like I said, all of our social media is below us. And until the next episode, guys, we'll see you later.